Good afternoon, Charli Wall here, coming to you with a question of the week. Thank you to all of you who joined me for the webinar last night. If you haven't seen it, you can look below. If you're in my Facebook group, you can see it down there, and it's in the units, the Finding Freedom from Habits and Anxiety units in the Facebook group. If you're watching this on another platform and you'd like to see the webinar where I interview several of the ladies that have taken the program in the past, just ping me a message and I'll send you the video. And I'm going to put it in my YouTube channel. Now, following on from that webinar last night, I've spoken to someone who wants to join the Freedom Program, and incidentally has joined the Freedom Program, so I'm really excited about that. But what she asked me, one of her concerns was, what if my experience is not validated? And what she heard, I think, or what her fear was, is that her experience of trauma, of grief, the difficulties that she's had in her life would be too much for people, would be invalidated, would be put down. And I want to reassure any of you who have come across my work, who might be interested in the Freedom Program, who struggle with feeling alone with your experience. Firstly, that I absolutely understand. If you've seen anything about my story, it's one of trauma, traumatic grief, huge life changes, huge losses, quite a few addiction problems, quite a few habits of thought, habits of behaviour, chronic anxiety, PTSD. And at no point when I'm working with people in the circles of women that I work with, does anybody feel invalidated? Is their experience negated? Because what this lady heard, I think, in the webinar last night was the women who were talking were saying what they'd seen is that they weren't their stories. And I think what this particular lady heard in that was, but I am my story, I am my experience, and I'm proud of it, right? And I feel it, and I'm alone in it, but I need help. Now, what I was able to say to her was, of course your experience is valid, of course your feelings are valid. You know, we each have our own unique experience of grief, of trauma, of life, of loss, of relationships, of love, of children, all of it, right? We all have our experience, and we often live in the story of I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, I'm not clever enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not, insert whatever you want to put here, enough. And that's the story that very often women live from and live with, and then because of that limiting belief, we see and have evidence everywhere that that's true. That's the story that from the Freedom Program that I aim to help you see isn't true. I want you to see that you are enough, even though you may have been through terrible, terrible life experiences. You are worthy and valid despite going through trauma. Just because you've got evidence to suggest and prove to me and probably others around you that you're not good enough and that you only deserve this shit, that's not true. And the freedom that's on offer for you and every woman in this group, because it's been open and on offer to the people who've done the Freedom Program, it's on offer to everyone. Because you have within you the potential to see something different. And acknowledge your pain and not run from it. Acknowledge your grief, acknowledge your trauma, acknowledge that you don't have to do this alone, whatever it might be for you. And I work with hundreds of women and I hear hundreds of stories, and often the core belief with people that I work with is that I'm not good enough. So I just wanted to kind of, if you have any questions about the Freedom Program, I will probably dedicate a time to do a question and answer. If it's something that you're interested in, let me know if that would be something that you'd like me to do. I can do another webinar where you ask questions if that would be what you'd prefer. But if you're thinking, oh, my problem's different, if you're thinking, I might be too much for some people, what I want you to know is that that's absolutely not true. And what you get from the group, from the smaller group of women, is you get held safely, you get supported, you get encouraged, you get shown where the light is within you. And all I'm ever going to do, whether you come into that Freedom Program or not, what I'm always going to be doing is shining the light on you. The way I talk about it in a lot of my work is the iceberg model of change. So we have an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is what we see. 10% of that iceberg is what we see. 90% of that iceberg is invisible, what we don't see. And that's a metaphor for us. We see what's wrong with us. That's the tip. This is what's wrong with me. I've got this, this, and this, and this. What I'm pointing you to always is the 90% that's invisible, that's true. And what I'll be doing is the sun will be shining on you 100% of the time, because that's where I'll be pointing you to. And all that happens, if I keep pointing the sun at you, at the iceberg, it starts to melt, it starts to shift, it starts to change form. And that's all we need, just a little shift for you to see something new, for you to see a truth about yourself. And in that group forum, you're held, you're supported, you're encouraged, and you don't have to do this alone. So I hope that helps. If you've got any questions, let me know, and I can come on and do one of these, or like I say, I can do another webinar or Q&A. But I'm excited. So if you want to watch the webinar, let me know, and I'll point you in the direction of that. If you want to have a chat with me, let me know, and we can organise a call. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.